Hey amigos, welcome back to the Nessa G Show. This is your first time here. Make sure that you hit follow. Follow me on Instagram, Fit by Nessa G, where we talk all things fitness, mindset, nutrition, and how to be the best version of ourselves. So without further ado, let's get right into the episode. All right, amigos. Hey, I know this was a topic that you guys were asking for on Instagram when I did my poll. So, again, I want to thank you guys, first of all, because you guys showed me so much love this past week with my new episode and this podcast. I am so excited to finally be doing it, and the feedback was amazing. So, I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Just everything that you guys said to me, the messages, the shout outs, and it really means a lot. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's get right into it, right? Everybody's like, oh shit, what is this podcast going to be about? You know, what happens, the single life era after a 10-year relationship. Dun 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 dun. All right, so we gotta go into the story of that, the struggle, the journey. You guys know I keep it real with you guys. And anything that I do share is because I have already went through it and thankfully have been able to come out on the other side. And whenever that happens, I like to share, my experience. I like to share what I've learned from that. So I'll share with you guys what I've learned, what I'm experiencing now, and just give you guys some little tips and tricks as far as like what I'm doing that has helped me. I was with my partner for damn near 10 years. We lived together. We had a whole life together. We traveled together. Our families were always together. Like we had vacations together. Like all these things. Like you never thought that this relationship would have ended, and unfortunately, right? Because things happen for a reason. It did end in February of this year. Let's talk about the struggle, the pain, the heartbreak, because that was very, very difficult for me. It was something that was new. It was something that I never really like anticipated. I really thought that I was going to marry this guy. And, like now I realize that, yeah, I mean, that wasn't meant to be. I am excited to just share with you guys like what that's been like. And of course, there was a lot of pain. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my gosh, it was the best decision. Because in the moment, it felt like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, is this really happening? It was not something that I anticipated. I didn't think that my year was going to start this way. But at the end of the day, I feel like things happen for a reason. And I remember seeing this quote saying, like, rejection is redirection, right? So let me say that again. Rejection is redirection. And when you are in a situation like that where it comes to relationships, we are often so blinded by the things and what we think is love. And maybe there is love, right? Like maybe there was. I'm not saying there wasn't love, because I did love this man, but I think now it's definitely different. It's a whole different type of love. Like I'll have care for him, but I won't romantically, it's not there, right? And yeah, like I just feel like at this point I'm okay to talk about it because I've been through it. Like I said, it was really, really difficult, like the first month, specifically like the first month for sure. That was like where I just was so depressed. I was thinking about this like daily. It was so difficult to just think about anything else. Like I was still showing up, but I wasn't showing up completely, right? Like I was going to the gym, and that was literally my way of feeling like some type of normalcy in my life. But other than that, it was very difficult for me to process, and I just knew that I had to go through it so that I could come out of it. Because again, what happens when we have all this trauma, when we have all this hurt and pain? We try to brush it under the rug, right? And the fucking rug is like 5 feet tall, and we're like, oh, just wandering around, like wondering why we're sad, why we're mad. So I truly did want to process everything. I remember just praying to God constantly. Being able to be around my family really did help, and just have like the support of my sister and my parents and all of that. So I'm thankful for my friends and my family that were there through the struggle. But again, it was difficult. The journey was not easy. And just like we talk about the fitness journey not being easy and life happening, like I could simply be like, oh my gosh, my 10-year relationship ended and my life is over. But I was like, no, like I felt at peace. There was moments where I felt at peace because I knew that their version self didn't want to settle for certain things. but also like there was hurt because I mean, I don't think you're ever ready to let go of a relationship. Sometimes you get to a point where you're like, nah, like I can't do this any longer. Like this has to end here, type of thing. And give yourself the respect of knowing what you're worth. And, you know, if it's not fitting, then it's not fitting, girl. Like let's stop forcing things that are not for us. So that's something that I really did capture during that process, and being able to go through it and learn that solitude is not a bad thing, right? Because that allowed me to learn more about myself. It allowed me to think about what I want and what I don't want, what I'm going to settle for and what I'm definitely not going to settle for, right? So when you are open to that, you are more receptive to changes, and changes are not always the best. They're not always the most happiest moments, but sometimes I really do believe that changes in life situations like this mold us. So for me, I could have easily been like, well, fuck, man, like, this is not it, right? Like, I could have said all this, but I have been doing a lot of personal work where I know that just because this relationship didn't go to where I wanted it to be, then doesn't mean that I'm not going to have that, right? But at the same time, like I'm not about to rush anything because I don't want to go into from one relationship to another bringing all this baggage. We have all these traumas, we have all these codependency tendencies. Like we have all these things that help or hurt us, right? Rather than help us. So learning how to be within myself has really taught me so much, and it has opened so many different opportunities to explore different avenues and be able to really like set those boundaries and standards for myself. So one of the things that I remember seeing, like before even the breakup, I remember seeing this video of this girl talking about how she moved from her parents' house, and then she went to live with her boyfriend, which is technically what happened with us. I was still like in high school. I was still my it was my senior year in high school where we got together, and like we were really young, so I don't know what the fuck we were thinking, but anyways, we went from one codependency to another, which is I went from my parents' house to living with him and his parents for a minute, and then or like his mom. And really, like, where do we get the opportunity to live by ourselves? Where do we get the opportunity to learn more about ourselves, of what we like and what we don't like? We truly don't. Unless you're being intentional about it, which is something that I'm doing now, you truly don't know how to be alone. And again, we're human and we crave that human connection. So it's like easy for us to go and be with people and like surround ourselves with people and fill the voids with people. If you want to grow, if you want to be different from everybody, like society is, instead of you going and being with somebody just because you don't want to be alone, you need to learn that nothing and no one is going to fulfill you other than you fulfilling yourself, right? So that's something that I had to learn. It was like we are literally codependent of everything, of everybody, right? Whether it's our families, whether it's our relationships, friendships, we're codependent usually. Like that's something that we want and crave. But again, this taught me more about my boundaries. It taught me that I don't need to be in a relationship. Like it's okay to feel alone, right? Like you could feel alone. This is something that I've been talking about lately. Is yes, it could get lonely, but at the same time, I am at this peace where I don't need nor want anything that's going to disturb that. And I feel like if you are in a relationship or you are in some type of situation where you're not truly happy, then let it fucking go. Let it go. For real, let it go, please, because you're hurting yourself, you're hurting the other person as well. Like we don't think about it, like we don't think far into it because again, we don't want to be alone. But I'm telling you right now, if you learn how to be by yourself, there is going to be just so much more growth within yourself. You're going to learn more about your boundaries. You're going to learn more about your standards. You're not going to deal with the same bullshit that you deal with right now. I'm just going to be straight up with you. You're not. Why? Because you learn that it's like, what the fuck? Like if I'm by myself and I'm not experiencing X, Y, and Z, but I'm with somebody and I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z and it's not making me feel good, then you're going to start to see that you don't need that. Right? Again, we're human. We sometimes turn the other eye to like not focus on it or pay any attention to the things, the red flags, but be aware. Be aware of knowing what comes with that, right? Because we turn our cheek the other side and then we're kind of wondering like, what, how did this happen, or where did I go wrong? And it's not necessarily that you went wrong, it's just you just didn't, you probably didn't know how to process those emotions, you probably didn't know how to analyze that situation, you weren't thinking clearly, right? You weren't intentional. So this is just a reminder that at the end of the day, you need to really reflect and sit down and see where you're currently at as far as your relationship, as far as your life, as far as things that you're doing within yourself, and really think about, is this fitting me? Is this the higher version self speaking? Is this the higher version self's actions? And once you get a clear picture of what that looks like, you will start to see a lot of changes within yourself, and people may even criticize you and tell you that you change, that you're different, that you think you're all that. And to me, I will say, yes, I am all that, honey. Okay? And I worked really hard to believe myself to be all that. And if you don't believe that you're all that, nobody's going to believe that you are all that, right? That you're that girl. And again, every time that I say you're that girl, I want you to think about your higher version self, because that girl could look so different from me to you, right? My version could be completely different than what you're thinking about. So ultimately, when I say that girl, I just want you to think about your higher version self and start to really embody her. But I think that's one of the things for sure. I kind of went on a tangent there. Nothing new. So now that I am experiencing single, I do want to say that it has been it has been interesting, right? Again, I don't waste my time with anything or anybody that's really not serving me, and that include men. Like, yes, yes, there is people hitting my line, but do I want that? No. Again, I don't want any type of relationship right now. I feel like also when people go into a big ass change like this, where they're, for example, me leaving a relationship that was supposed to be something like marriage, right? I feel like a year is not even enough time. Like, I think about it, and I think about it now because